All right. So what I want to work on today is I want to look at our measures of the shape of distributions, and we want to turn some of these things into more specific numbers. So we've been looking at frequency distributions, and our probably most comfortable tool will end up being the histogram for when we have discrete values. And the histogram is starting to describe how our data moves through space. And so what we want to be able to do is find a way of putting number or measure to, hey, where's the middle? And how wide is this thing? Where is my stuff? And we'll use shape as a descriptor, but we're going to be looking at ways of getting number into shape. And our main tool right now is we're going to look for where our data, what is the middle of our data? And we call this central tendency, the tendency for the data to gather around midpoints. And there's different types of midpoints. They're the three M's. They're the mean, which is the average of the values. The median, which is the middle of the data entries. And the mode, which is the most common or frequent data value. And so the mean, the median or middle, the mode or the most. And so we're going to start with by looking at the mean. Now to get the mean, we have two things we can look at. We can look at our population, or we can look at a sample. And both of them calculate the mean the same way. We're just going to use different notation. Anytime we talk about a population, we're going to use Greek letters. And so we use the Greek mu, which is the letter M for mean. And then we use sigma notation to say we're going to add up every data value, every X value. And we're going to divide it by the number of data entries in the population. Now for a sample, we're going to use X bar as our average. And we're going to sum up every piece of data we've collected in the sample and divide it by the number of things in the sample. Now the process is the same. We add everything up and divide it by the number of things. We're just making two distinctions. We're going to use Greek for the mean here. That's the population mean. And a capital N because a population has everything. So that's a population number of entries. Because populations are bigger, it's everything. We use the big N. And here this means mean for a sample, and that's the number of samples. Number of samples. Well, this sigma notation, sigma, says add the first piece of data plus the second piece of data plus the third piece of data, and so on until you get through every piece of data. So it's just a shortcut for sum. Sigma is the Greek letter S, and it gives us a shortcut for sum. So let's do one of these. Let's take some data and let's find the sample mean. So the book uses an example in which we have adults in a weight loss study. And so we have adults entering a weight loss study, and this is their weight going in. 274, 235 pounds, 223, 268, 290, 285, and 235. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So lowercase n, because it's a sample, 7 people. So we want to calculate the sample mean. So I'm going to use this notation so that I know it's like a name. This says sample mean. I'm going to sum up each piece of data and divide it by lowercase n, which means I'm going to add 274 plus the 235 plus the 223 plus the 268 plus the 290 plus the 285 plus the 235, and I'm going to divide all of it by 7. And I run that through my trusty calculator. Let's see if I can get it here. Switch over to my trusty calculator. Oh, not switching to my trusty calculator. Switch over to my trusty calculator. And so I've added up, scroll up here, I've added up all of my entries and divided by 7. And I get 258.57. 14286. I want to round this to one decimal place. I want to come back here. And I'm going to say this is 258.6 pounds. And so that's the average of the data. Oops, my pounds is going all nuts there. It's the middle of the values. I guess the way I was first explained is if you put all of the data on a ruler and you put all the values together with like one marble, the average is the place that you would have to put your pivot so the ruler wouldn't tip over. It's the place that holds all the individual marbles the best. But, all right, let's calculate this a little bit easier on our TI-84s here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to enter my data into a list. Now to do that, we're going to use the stat key. I'm going to come over to stat, and we're going to get an option. Now what I want to do is I want to be in edit, and I want to edit my list. So I'm already in the right place, so I'm going to hit enter. And so I have list 1, 2, 3. I have multiple lists. I can go, I think, up to 6 lists. I'm going to use list 1 right now. Now I'm going to enter the first piece of data, 274, enter. 235, enter. 223, enter. 268, enter. 290, enter. 285, enter. And 235. And I'm going to go back to stat. And I'm going to go over to calculate. And this is one variable statistics. So I want to make sure I'm on one variable statistics. I'm going to hit enter. Now my list is L1. I have no frequency list. So I scroll down to calculate and I hit enter. Notice it calculated the mean for me. And it also calculated some other things. Told me how many pieces of data were in my data set. Gave me the minimum value and the maximum value. We're going to look at these other values in a bit, but that calculated the mean for us. All right. I'm going to plop this up online, and then I'm going to go and do one, and we're going to talk about the median a bit.